Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Srimad Bhagavatam Bhakti Vaibhav class. In the previous weeks, we were discussing from this section called Puranjana, the allegorical story of Puranjana, wherein we saw many things that Puranjana married Puranjani, spent time very nicely with Puranjani in the city of Nine Gates, and then eventually he was attacked by the old age, Kalakanya, Jara, and also fear by a personified, and also by Prajvara, the death personified. So by the intervention of all these people, he left his body. And then he appeared as the daughter of King Malayadvaja. That is what we were discussing in the last class. That is where we stopped. And we'll continue from there on. He is taking birth as the daughter of King Vidarbha. So that's where we continue. The story of Vaidharbhi today, what happened to her, etc. So in the 27-28 verses of the previous chapter, it was mentioned that Ananta Pare Tamasi, Magno Nashna Smruti Sma, Shashwatir Anubhuyartim, Pramada Sanga Dushita, Tam Eva Manasa Grahanan, Babuva Pramodottama, Anantaram Vidarbhasya, Raja Simhasya Veshmani. So basically here this verse talks about Puranjana having given up the city of Nine Gates. He had gone to hell and then had been through various species, spending time at various places. Finally, he appeared as the daughter of King Vidarbha. Merged in unending darkness, devoid of memory, experiencing pain for infinite years. We don't know how many years it passed since the time he left the city of Nine Gates and appeared as the daughter of King of Vidarbha. So in between he appeared, he took birth as various species. He went to hell, he went to heaven, so many things happened. And contaminated by the association with women, he remembered in his mind that woman and finally was born in the house of a great king of Vidarbha and the best of women, Pramadottama. So basically there were two women as we were discussing in the previous class. One woman was Puranjani, the Dharmic intelligence. The other woman was the city of Nine Gates, which was the source of enjoyment. So while dying, he forgot Puranjani, the Dharmic intelligence. Instead, he was only remembering about how the city of Nine Gates, considering it to be a woman, how it gave him a lot of enjoyment. Because he thought of that city of Nine Gates, the source of enjoyment. And also he thought of his sons, daughters, and etc. He had to go through so many different species. He was merged in darkness, devoid of end in suffering. Since he worshipped through many sacrifices, it should be understood that he also enjoyed happiness in Swarga for many years. So he also went to Swarga because he performed so many ritualistic sacrifices along with his dharmic intelligence. He should get result for it, but that is not mentioned because in order to create a sense of renunciation and Prachinabari. If he is going to heaven is also mentioned because Prachinabari also performed so many yajnas. Yeah, Puranjana also performed so many yajnas. If Puranjana got into heaven and enjoyed, the Prachinabari might say, I will also go to heaven and enjoy. So not to give that chance, Nardamuni only talks about he is going to hell and is taking birth in different species so that the aspect of renunciation can be brought out in the heart of Prachinabari. Because remembering a woman, he became a woman finally. Because at the time of death, he was thinking about the woman in the form of the entire city of Nine Gates. He finally appeared as a woman. The spiritual perspective of the story is this. It was said that because one faints from the extreme pain at the time of death, the loss of dharmic intelligence is temporary. After enjoying in Swarga with the exhaustion of pious activities, pious deeds, he regains his dharmic intelligence. and is born in the house of a person following dharma. This is the intention of the verse. Basically, at the time of death, he was thinking too much, thinking about the city of nine gates and his wife because it was a source of enjoyment. He forgot his dharmic intelligence, which was guiding him in the religious way. Because he was thinking about the city of nine gates as women, he is supposed to take birth in various species. And finally, he had gone to heaven, enjoyed as a result of dharmic activities. Then he remembered, I am able to enjoy in the heaven like this because of my dharmic intelligence. Then when he remembered dharmic intelligence, having enjoyed in heaven, he took birth as a person in the family of a dharmic parents. So like that, the spiritual significance of the story is mentioned. However, attaining a body of a man or woman was not mentioned. Of course, here in the allegorical story, Puranjana appeared as Vaidharbhi. But Puranjana is Atma. That Atma, whether it is appeared as male or female in the next time, it is not clearly mentioned. In the male body or female body, not mentioned clearly. The various options of birth, however, such as man or woman, are not mentioned here. Later it is said. 29th chapter talks about possibility of in between having gone through so many species. The foolish jiva is sometimes a man, sometimes he is a woman, sometimes he is Enush, sometimes he is Devata, human or animal. His birth takes place according to the gunas and his actions. According to one's karma, one gets the body. A Devata body, human body, animal body, or man body, human body, and Inuch body. It all depend on based on one's karma. Which was mentioned in the third canto, chapter 30, text number 33-34. It talks about how a jiva goes through different species before taking birth as a human being. So, eager to maintain his family by sinful actions alone, the person goes to the final destination of Andatamishram, a region of hell. After successfully going through many births below the human form and becoming purified, he returns to this earth as a human again. After going to hell, one goes through all the species, then goes to heaven, then comes to earth as a human species. How one comes to human species? The jiva about to receive a human body by the law of karma under the supervision of the Lord. Karmana daivanetrana jantur deha upapadate. Sriya pravishya udaram pumsha reita kanashraya. Taking shelter of a particle of semen from a man, enter the womb of a woman. So this is how the jiva, having gone through all the species, finally enter into the womb of a mother, get the human body. That's how it is indicated. And here our Puranjana had got the birth in the family of king of Vaidharbhi. So that is mentioned in the next verse. This also we saw in the last week. Upayeme Veerapanam Vaidharbhi Malayadvaja Yudhi Nirjitya Rajanyan Pandya Parapuranjaya. It is said that after being born as the daughter of Vaidharbhi, she grown up to youth. Then she was married to Malayadvaja, who was the conqueror of enemy cities. After defeating other kings in battle, married the daughter of the king of Vaidharbhi at the price of his chivalry. Veerapana, Veerashulka, because he was so powerful king, as a price for his valor, he got Vaidharbhi as his wife. That was mentioned. And we saw that what is the meaning of this Malayadvaja, all these things are mentioned. As long as the jiva does not have bhakti, he cannot get deliverance from samsara. Deliverance from samsara is only by bhakti, not by any other things. Bhakti is spontaneous. That bhakti comes spontaneously. How? By the association with the devotees. By the spontaneous mercy of the devotees, bhakti comes to us. That bhakti will deliver us from this material entanglement. This is shown in Puranjana's next life as Vaidharbhi, where he attained association with a devotee through marriage. So for Puranjana, he took birth as Puranjani, got married to Malayadvaja. and hence eventually got liberation. But for Jiva, for all of us, we need to take shelter of a spiritual master. By the mercy of spiritual master, we get delivered. So that is what is indicated. Malayadvaja means the best among the devotees. He is like the Dvaja. Dvaja means the flag which is there on the top of the fort. Who are equal to, who best among the devotees, who are equal to Malaya mountain range, since they are worthy of the same worship. All the devotees are like Malaya mountain. And Malayadvaja is the Chandan tree which is in the Malaya mountain. That is so special in that way. Upayame, married, can mean accepting to be a student of or a disciple. One meaning of Upayame is married, other meaning is becoming a disciple of a spiritual master. Viryapanam, prize for valor, can also mean no one else could be accepted as a teacher because he had great mercy as his power. Virya. What is the mercy? What is the power of the spiritual master? Causeless mercy. By the causeless mercy of the spiritual master, he should be accepted as one's guru. No one else can be accepted as guru. So, for a Kshatriya, they display valor. For spiritual master, they display compassion. So, a couple of references were there we saw last time. One is situated in prescribed duty, Swadhar Masta, free from the sinful activities and cleansed of material contamination. In this very life, obtains transcendental knowledge, Vishuddha Jnanam, or by good fortune, Nidruchaya, devotional service unto me, Mad Bhakti. This Lord Krishna says in the Uddhav Gita. And then one more verse in the 10th canto, the prayers, it says that when the material life of a wanton soul has ceased, O Achyuta, he may attain the association of your devotees. And when he associates with them, there awakens in him devotion unto you, who are the goal of the devotees and the Lord of all causes and their effects. So basically, by good fortune, one gets the association of devotees, and by which one gets bhakti, by which one gets delivered in this material world. So that is a special mercy. These verses show that bhakti arises in the jiva in some birth from sudden association with a devotee due to previous sakruti. He had defeated other kings. This means that he had uprooted all sins, offenses, time, and karma. So Malayadvaja defeating all the kings means the guru, the person who is qualified to become guru, should have uprooted all sins, all offenses, should have controlled time and karma. Pandya means he was from Pandya province, or he who could discriminate between matter and spirit. The spiritual matter should be able to discriminate between matter and spirit. Parapuranjaya means he who conquered the cities of enemies, or he who cut the doubts arising from other philosophies. The spiritual master is supposed to be firmly established in one's philosophy. He cannot be disturbed by others' philosophies. If at all somebody comes, he will be able to easily defeat them. Brahmanishtam, Shastranishtam, Shrotriyam, Brahmanishtam, the quality of the spiritual master. So, Vaidharbhi married Malayadvaja. The jiva is supposed to take shelter of spiritual master. And different qualities of the spiritual master are indicated here in this verse. And then last time we also saw 30th verse, and which said, Tasyam sa janayam chakra atmajam astekshanam yavi yasha tapta sutan sapta dravida bhubruta. It says that Malayadvaja, after marrying Vaidharbhi, they begot 8 children, 7 sons, 1 daughter. Daughter name is Astekshana. The 7 sons became the rulers of the 7 provinces of India. So who are these 7 sons and the daughter? Asitekshana was the daughter's name. It can also mean she who received the glance of the Lord Krishna. Asita Ikshana. Thus it means one who has a taste for serving Lord Krishna. So basically, when a disciple takes shelter of a spiritual master, the taste to serve Lord Krishna will arise. Ado Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha means Guru Padashraya. Then Bhajana Kriya. Bhajana Kriya means desire to serve Lord Krishna. Desire to do Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam, etc. etc. So that is Asikshana. So I gave an example of Asita means Yamuna river. So Yamuna is directly connected to Lord Krishna. That's why Asita is given the meaning of Krishna. Varanasi located on the bank of a river. Currently we call Ganga, but it's actually combination of Ganga and Yamuna. Both are there. Varana and Asita. Varana is Ganga, Asita is Yamuna. That's why it gets the name. By the mercy of Guru, the Jiva develops a taste for serving Lord Krishna. How does the Jiva serve Lord Krishna? By engaging in ninefold bhakti process. But here Vaidharbhi only gave birth to seven sons. Who are the seven sons? The seven sons are corresponding to the seven process of bhakti. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam. Only 7 are mentioned out of 9. Why the other 2 are not mentioned? Because Sakyam and Atman Nivedanam are difficult in the beginning of one's devotional service and will appear spontaneously later on. They are not mentioned. So only 7 are easy to practice from the beginning. These 2 are difficult to practice. That's why their names are not mentioned. These 7 sons were the kings of the southern provinces. What was the reason? The southern provinces are renowned for prominence of bhakti, consisting of hearing, chanting, etc. The 7 processes ruled like kings, having subdued karma, jnana, and other processes. So there are 2 stories are happening parallelly. One is Vaidharbhi story. She married Malayadvaja, gave birth to Astekshana and 7 sons. And spiritual story is the Jiva supposed to take shelter of the spiritual master. By that, Sadhu Sangha, there comes Bhajana Kriya. The Bhajana Kriya will be consisting of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam. Sakyam Atmanivedanam will come later on when one comes to the Bhava platform. So that is the understanding. So we'll continue with verse number 31 onwards. Ekaikasya bhavattesham Rajan arbudam arbudam bhukshate yadvamshadarair mahi manvantaram para.
My dear King Prachina Parishad, the sons of Malayadvaja gave birth to many thousands and thousands of sons, and all of these have been protecting the entire world up to the end of one Manu's lifespan and even afterwards.
So here it is said that, O king, Nardamni is speaking to Prachinabari. Each of them had tens of millions of children, the descendants of whom ruled the earth during Manu's period and after. Manvantaram Param. So basically, these 7 sons married and begot so many children, one after the other, one after the other. The activities of bhakti continue to exist for a manvantara and more. Matlab they continued rest of the time eternally. That means when a jiva takes shelter of a spiritual master, having started bhajana kriya, that bhajan will continue for the rest of eternity. Whether the jiva is in the material world or the spiritual world, bhakti will continue. That is manvantaram param. Manvantaram means we can take it as a lifetime, and param we can take it as beyond our lifetime. So it will continue to exist. That is the understanding. So once we sincerely take shelter of a spiritual master, we begin bhakti, and that bhakti will continue to exist for the rest of eternity. There is no end to that bhakti. So in that way. The 7 sons had many sons and grandsons. This also means that the processes like hearing can each be subdivided into hearing the name, hearing the past tense, hearing the qualities such as Nama, Rupa, Gun, Lila. The Shravanam itself can have many divisions. Kirtanam has many divisions. Smaranam has many divisions. So that is what the 7 children of Malayadvaja had many children. That means they have bhakti activities, have many sub activities. Or they can be divided according to worship of different avataras. Archanam, for example, Krishna Archanam, Rama Archanam, Varaha Archanam, like the different Archanas. Or they can be divided according to the different rasas. Serving the Lord in Dasya, Sakya, Vasalya, Madhurya. Thus, there are innumerable subdivisions of each process. So there is no end to the number of divisions. That's why it is said that they have millions of children. Eka ekasya abhavat tesham arbudam arbudam. One son have arbuda children. There is no end to it. For example, Shravanam, we can hear Bhagavad Gita, we can hear Bhagavatam, we can hear Ramayana, Mahabharata, so many. There is no end to hearing. So in that way. Bhakti yogo bahuvido marger bhavini bhavati bhavyate swabhava guna margena pumsham bhavo vidiyate. This is Lord Kapila was saying to Mother Devahuti in the third canto. Bhakti appears in many forms by particular actions in a person according to his intentions. The intentions are classed by the actions of the gunas arising from one's nature. There, Lord Kapila was talking about bhakti in the mode of ignorance, in the mode of passion, in the mode of goodness, in the mode of pure goodness. So, in that way, he's telling that based on one's intentions, the bhakti can expand into various types. The descendants of the different sampradayas. So, the descendants of the sons can be considered as different sampradayas. The same Shravanam, Kirtana, Smaranam only, the different sampradayas do in different way. So, like that also you can take. They ruled the whole earth. This means that the earth was protected from ignorance and materialistic karma yoga. These the 7 bhakti activities along with their descendants protected the earth from ignorance and materialistic karma yoga. Matlab keeping them in the proper path, in the Nishkam karma yoga, Jnana yoga, Ashtanga yoga and Bhakti yoga. So that the jiva can go back to Godhead. That's how it is indicated. So this is the understanding of Malayadvaja giving birth to children. Hare Krishna, devotees are able to follow? Any questions?
No, Prabhuji.
Agasya Prak Duhitram. Hare Krishna, nobody wants to say something?
No, Prabhuji, no question. Thank you.
Agasya Prak Duhitaram Upaye me Dhrutavratam Yasyam Drudachyuto Jata Idmavahatmano Idmavahatmajo Munihi.
The great sage named Agastya married the firstborn daughter of Malayadvaja, the avowed devotee of Lord Krishna. From her, one son was born, whose name was Drudachyuta, and from him another son was born, whose name was Idvamaha.
So the previous verse talked about the lineage of the 7 sons of the 7 sons had Arbuda sons, and they are indicating different activities, sub activities of the 7 bhakti activities, Bhajan Kriya. Now the daughter's lineage is mentioned. Asitekshana. Her name was Asitekshana. Sage Agastya married the firstborn daughter of Malayadvaja, who had found vows, in whom one son named Drudachyuta was born. Drudachyuta had Idmavaha as his son. Asitekshana married Agastya, who is firm in his vows, Drudavrata. He is very strong and determined to practice his vows. And after their marriage, they gave birth to Dhruvachuta, and Dhruvachuta himself gave birth to Idmava. So what is the meaning of this verse? Agastya married the first daughter. Agastya means one who brings together all the senses which cannot act on their own. Agastya. The meaning of Agastya is one who brings all the senses together which cannot act on their own. Matlab basically, he who keeps the senses under control, he who controls the senses, who is called the master over the senses, is called Agastya. This means mind. Agastya, the master of the senses. So Astekshana means the desire to serve Lord Krishna, the desire to practice Bhajana Kriya. Mind. That means the desire should take birth in the mind of the disciple. I will take a shelter of a guru. Unless until the mind owns the desire to do some devotional service, one cannot do. It is the mind ultimately master of the senses. This means the mind which accepted a taste for Lord Krishna, the firstborn daughter, Astekshana. This is verse number 32. So basically, when a jiva by good fortune comes in the association of devotees, Ado Shraddha develops, then one should take shelter of a spiritual master, Sadhu Sangha, that is Guru Padashraya. Then there appears the desire to serve Lord Krishna. Then what one should do? The desire should manifest in the mind of the jiva. So with that desire, one continues to practice Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam. 7 only one can execute. Sakyam Atmanivedana one cannot execute in the initial days. That will come automatically at the level of Bhava. Okay. So that is the meaning of Astekshana marrying Agastya. And what should be the quality of Agastya? Is Dhruvavrata. The mind should be Dhruvavrata to practice bhakti. Otherwise, Chanchalam hi Mana Krishna Pramadi Ballavadrudam. Adruda mind cannot allow one to practice bhakti. Only Druda mind can allow one to practice bhakti. So, in that way. The taste produced form vows of mercy, tolerance, and other good qualities. Dhruta means the desire to practice bhakti should bring about qualities such as mercy, tolerance, and all other good qualities. Shamo, Dapas, Tapas, Saucham, Shantiri, Arjavam, etc. etc. All the qualities should manifest. All these qualities indicates Dhruda Vrata. Then only one can continue to practice bhakti for the entire life and beyond. Otherwise, one's bhakti remains superficial. This means that from taste, by great mercy, the mind of the jiva then developed asakti for serving Lord Krishna. Here asakti means desire to serve Lord Krishna. That asakti was devoid of attachment to Satyaloka and other places. What kind of desire to serve Lord Krishna? A devotee should not have a desire to go anywhere in the universe. Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. Mamupetiti Kaunteya Punarjanma Navidyate. This means it had distaste for enjoyments of this world and higher worlds. Enjoyment of the Bhuloka, Bhurloka, Sargaloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, all the verses, all the places not interested. Or they developed distaste for other practices like jnana and even for liberation. Even the devotee should not have desire for Sahyajya Mukti or Brahmananda. Only one desire to serve the Lord in person. That means The mind was completely devoid of a desire for other practices or other goals because of the exclusive taste for serving Lord Krishna. What is that exclusive taste for serving Lord Krishna? That is Agastya's son, Druda Achyuta. Druda Sankalpa to serve Lord Krishna alone, no one else. That kind of desire should manifest with the execution of Bhakti, consisting of 7 processes, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, etc. etc. When this man, see here, this is all for us only. How we should practice Bhakti. What kind of determination we should have to practice Bhakti. With what kind of goal we should practice Bhakti. With that goal, when we practice that kind of Bhakti only, we will become qualified to go back to Godhead. Otherwise, Hare Krishna. How did all this arise? How it is possible to get all these things? He had a son, Idmavaha. The Dridachta, the desire to serve Lord Krishna, should also have a son. Should also have a desire, supporting desire. What is that? Idmavaha. The meaning is one who carries firewood for the sacrifice. Vaha means Vahan, the carrier. Idma means Indanam, firewood. He who carries the firewood for the purpose of sacrifice. This is famous in the Shruti passage. Tad Vijnanartham Sagurum Evabi Gachet Samit Pani Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. This is a verse from Mundaka Upanishad. Prabhupada quotes again and again the Bhagavad Gita. With fuel in hand, one should approach a guru, learned in the Vedas and fixed in the Lord for knowledge of the Lord. With a desire to understand Supreme Lord, one should approach a spiritual master with firewood in the hand. Because the spiritual master might say that come tomorrow, he might delay, but disciple should be very determined that, my dear Guru, you should initiate me today, right now, and accept me as your disciple and teach me about Supreme Lord. There is no delay, no guarantee that tomorrow whether I will be living or not. You will be there or not, no guarantee. Right now, initiate me and give me Shiksha. That should be the Sankalpa a disciple should have. So in that way. It means surrender to Guru. According to the storyline, Agastya had a son named Dridachta, who had a son named Idmavaha. This is a description of the descendants of Malayadvaja's daughter. So basically, the Jiva should be so eager to get the spiritual master right themselves and get initiated and get firmly convinced to serve Lord Krishna alone, not even Brahmananda, only serving Lord alone. And with that intention, one should practice Bhakti consisting of 7 processes. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Mandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam. Not, no, Dasyam, not Sakyam, Atmanivedam. They will not be there. So that is the understanding. So only then one will be able to attain liberation. Otherwise, one will not be. So with that intention, Ardhamani is speaking this story. So next, text number 33. So having developed Asakti, having developed Drudachita, the desire to serve Lord Krishna alone, no one else, then what did you do? What did Malayadvaja and Vaidharbhi do? That is mentioned in the upcoming verses. Vibhajya Tanayebhyakshamam, sorry, Vibhajya Tanayebhyakshamam Rajarshir Malayadvaja Ariradishu Krishnam Sajagama Kulachalam Ariradishu Krishnam Sa Jagama Kulachalam.
After this, the great saintly king Malayadvaja divided his entire kingdom among his sons. Then, in order to worship Lord Krishna with full attention, he went to a solitary place known as Kulachala.
Yeah. The saintly king Malayadvaja, desiring to worship Lord Krishna, Ari Radhaishu Krishnam, after dividing the earth among his sons, departed to Kulachala mountain. He has taken Vanaprastha order. He married, he ruled over the kingdom, he gave responsibility to his sons, and then he's going to forest for performing Vanaprastha vows. From now on, the rest of the story is similar to that of Prutu Maharaj. Prutu and Varchi also went to forest, they performed austerities. Prutu died. Archie prepared the final rites, and she also herself entered into the fire, and she also attained Vaikuntha. Same story will come in the future verses. Dividing the earth means after dividing the types of bhakti. So the earth is the place where bhakti can be practiced. So dividing the earth among the sons means the practice of bhakti will continue to in different divisions. Shravanam, Shravanam also subdivisions. Rupa Shravanam, Nama Sharanam, Lila Shravanam, Guna Shravanam. So like that. Rupa Kirtanam, Nama Kirtanam, Lila Kirtanam. So like that. Kulachalam means a place for concentration, a place famous for giving bhakti or Venkata hills. He went to Kulachalam means he went to a place where one can practice bhakti seriously.
Venkata.
Venkata hill. Kulachalam. After taking Vanaprastha, one goes to Himalayas, which is meant for peaceful practice. For a jiva, he went to a place where bhakti, where the atmosphere to practice bhakti are favorable. So Venkata hill, Tirumala. Because we are talking about South India, all the 7 sons are the rulers of the South India province. So in that way. Whatever. So that is the thing. So basically, executing bhakti in that sevenfold process, he traveled to a place, the jiva is supposed to travel to a place where one can practice bhakti with complete dedication, complete devotion. So that is the meaning. So Malayadvaja going to Kulachala is as good as jiva going to a place where one can practice bhakti, full dedication with full surrender. So in that way. So here Prabhupada writes, here a couple of verses, couple of purports are talking about the spiritual master, different instructions to spiritual through spiritual master. So in the last paragraph, Prabhupada writes, thus Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura advocated that every devotee, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, preach the bhakti cult, Krishna consciousness, all over the world. Only when one is a mature can he sit in a solitary place and retire from preaching all over the world. So here Malayadvaja dividing the entire earth among his sons. The spiritual master divide the responsibility of preaching to his disciples. So on behalf of the spiritual master, disciples will continue to preach. Following this example, the devotees of the internal society where Krishna consciousness now render service as preachers in various parts of the world. Now they can allow the spiritual master to retire from active preaching work. In the last stage of the spiritual master's life, the devotees of the spiritual master should take preaching activities into their own hands. In this way, the spiritual master can sit down in a solitary place and render nirjana bhajan. Just like a ruler, a king, after ruling sufficient time, he gives the responsibility to the next generation, he goes to forest and performs Vanaprastha vows. Like that, the spiritual master, after training the disciples, will practice nirjana bhajan so that the disciples will continue preaching. So in that way, that basically prepares for his return. So in that way.
Prabhuji, is Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, is this true for our sampradaya also? Because ours is a preaching movement, is say, na, and we generally see that all the current gurus also, they are more into preaching even at the advanced age.
No, they are into preaching, that is okay, because Prabhupada himself is writing that Prabhupada also wanted many times, I want some time to write books. So all you GBC members take care of the institution. But they could not do on their own. That's why Prabhupada has to give his time and energy to maintain the entire ISKCON all over the world. Even today also, if our spiritual masters, if the disciples come forward and they say that Guru Maharaj, you don't worry, you take rest, we will take care. Then the spiritual master will become, he will do his bhajan peacefully. But many times the devotees, disciples, may come forward, may not come forward. That's why they also continue to preach in the last breath. So like that we can see.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
इत्वा गृहान् सुतान् भोगान् वैदर्भी मदिरेक्षणा अन्वधावत पाण्ड्येषां ज्योत्स्ने वा रजनीकरम्.
Just as the moonshine follows the moon at night, immediately after King Malayadvaja departed for Kulachala, his devoted wife, whose eyes were very enchanting, followed him, giving up all homely happiness despite family and children.
Here it says that giving up the house, sons, and enjoyments, the daughter of King Vidarbha, that is Vaidharbhi, with attractive eyes, Madira Ikshana, followed her husband just as moonlight follows the moon. When the husband is going to Vanaprasada, his wife also followed, giving up her home, children, and all the. So Prabhupada writes, just as in the Vanaprasada, the wife follows husband. Similarly, when the spiritual master retires for religion bhajan, some disciples should accompany him to take care of his needs, to serve him. So that is mentioned here. So in other words, those who are very fond of family life should come forward in the service of the spiritual master and abandon so-called happiness afforded by society, friendship, and love. In general, all the householders at right time should take on to Vanaprasada. A verse by Sri Tagore in his Guru Ashtaka is significant in this regard. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasada. A disciple should always remember that by serving the spiritual master, he can easily advance in Krishna consciousness. All the scriptures recommend that it is by placing the spiritual master and by pleasing the spiritual master and serving him directly that one can attain the actual stage of devotional service. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada. So what is the meaning of this verse? Just as the wife served the husband by rejecting enjoyment, the disciple engages in service to Guru by hearing and chanting, giving no regard even to solitary places which could give rise to the bliss of prema, in order to attain with ease the perfection of all goals by serving the Guru. This is the teaching in this verse. Basically, when the spiritual master is going to Nirjan Bhajan, some disciples should follow him, accepting all the austerities, not to live in the ashram in the midst of so many facilities. So then the meaning of Madirekshana. So Vaidharbhi is called as Madirekshana. Vaidharbhi had a daughter. Her name is Asitekshana. And she herself is called as Madirekshana. So what is the meaning of Madirekshana? Mad means exciting. Ira means message or the Vedas. What is the total meaning of Madirekshana? Her glance was always in the Veda, which gave joy. Since the Vedas say that service to Guru is the highest. Madirekshana means she who is obedient to serve her master, or the disciple who is obedient to follow the conclusions of the Vedas, that is to serve the Guru. Yasya deva parabhakti rita deva tata guru. So in that way. Srila Jiva Goswami says that Madhura means the Lord who gives joy. She had a glance always in the form of the Lord who gives Madhura Ikshana. So basically, she was always intent on looking at Lord, serving the Lord in that way. The meaning, according to the story, is that she had ever youthful glances in her eyes. That means the disciple is ever enthusiastic to serve the spiritual master. There is no tiredness in the heart of the disciple. Always eager to serve the Guru and the Lord. That is the meaning of Madhureshana. Ever youthful means ever enthusiastic.
Veda's conclusion, serving spiritual master all the perfections.
Yes. The conclusion of the Vedas is what is that 15:15? Vedesh sarver ahameva vedyo. Vedanta krit veda videva jam. Vedesh sarver ahameva vedyo. I am supposed to be known by studying the Vedas. How do we know about Krishna by studying the Vedas? And where do we study the Vedas? Tad vidhi pranipatena. If you want to know the Supreme Lord, the essence of the Vedas is to know the Lord. If you want to know the Supreme Lord from the Vedas, tad vidhi. If you want to know him, pranipatena pariprashtena upadekshantite jnanam jnananas Krishna. Take shelter of a Guru, serve him humbly, inquire from his submissively, so that the Guru can teach us the essence of the Vedas. So in that way. The essence of the Vedas is to know the Supreme Lord. But how that is possible? By taking shelter of a Guru only, not by our own. So in that way. Tatra Chandravasa Nama Tamraparne Vatodaka Tat Punya Salilair Nityam Ubhayatratmano Mrujan Kandastibir Molamalair Pushpaparnais Trunodakai Vartamana Shanair Gatra Krishnam Tapa Astita. Please read.
In the province of Kulachal, there were rivers named Chandravasa, Tamraparni, Vatodaka. King Malayadvaja used to go to those pious rivers regularly and take his bath there. Thus he purified himself externally and internally. He took his bath and ate bulbs, seeds, leaves, flowers, roots, fruits, and grasses, and drank water. In this way, he underwent severe austerities. Eventually, he became very skinny.
Yeah. So Prabhupada explains the concept of becoming skinny. He elaborates the purport about the skinniness entirely. At Kulachala, the king bathed daily, internally and externally, in the Chandravasa river, Tamraparni river, Vatodaka rivers, undergoing severe austerities, subsisting only on roots, seeds, bulbs, fruits, flowers, leaves, grass, and water. His body eventually became thin. So in the entire purport, Prabhupada talks about that only. We can definitely see that to advance in Krishna consciousness, one must control one's bodily weight. If one becomes too fat, it is to be assumed that he is not advancing spiritually. Prabhupada says, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura severely criticized his fat disciples. The idea is that one who intends to advance in Krishna consciousness must not eat very much. Devotees used to go to forests, high hills, or mountains on pilgrimages, but such severe austerities are not possible in these days. Therefore, one should instead eat only prasada and no more than required. According to the Vaishnava calendar, there are many fasts such as Ekadashi and the appearance and disappearance days of God and his devotees. All of these are meant to decrease the fat within the body so that one will not sleep more than desired and will not become inactive and lazy. Ekadashi, we have feast actually instead of fasting. Overindulgence in food will cause a man to sleep more than required. This human form of life is meant for austerity, and austerity means controlling sex, food intake, etc. In this way, time can be saved for spiritual activity, and one can purify oneself both externally and internally. Thus, both body and mind can be cleansed. That is the purpose of fasting for external and internal cleansing. Internally and externally, Malayadvaja washed away the impurities. As in the case of King Prithu, his intense austerity arose from his great eagerness for his Lord. Malayadvaja and Prithu both had eagerness to serve the Lord. And with that, they performed severe austerities to go back home back to Godhead as early as possible. So here I put couple of verses from the 23rd chapter when Prithu Maharaj went to forest. What did he do? What are the different types of austerities he performed? There in the forest, King Prithu underwent severe austerities according to the Vanaprastha rules with unbroken vows, using the same effort with which he previously achieved victory over the earth. He ate only roots like radish and fruits. He ate only roots like radish and some fruits fallen from the trees, and sometimes ate only dry leaves when there is nothing to eat. He began drinking only water without food for several months at a time. Finally, he only consumed only air. In the summer, he placed fire around himself in 4 directions. During the monsoon, he tolerated the torrents of rain. There was no hut. During winter, he stood up to his neck in cold water and slept on the bare earth without any bedding. Being tolerant, controlling words and controlling senses, controlling sexual impulse, and his life airs pranayam, his only desire being to worship Lord Krishna in person. He performed the highest austerities. This should be the intensity with which one should practice bhakti during the last years. If possible from the beginning, otherwise at least in the last years, one should take up such kind of sincere and severe hardships.
This seems to be invited austerity, like yes.
Not invited, it is just fastening the process.
For us, what we can say. Already you cannot do what is
It is meant for everyone. It is not for us, not like that. Since we are in Kali Yuga, we are very, 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 very difficult to get convinced.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, is it like in those days, like accepting Vanaprastha means one is actually trying to, preparing to leave the body, because the type of austerities it is mentioned, like we saw in Dhruva Maharaj case, Prithu Maharaj case, now here also means, first of all, though, about eating dry leaves, I have never understood. Means if I imagine myself, I can't even imagine that how the dry leaves can be eaten. Secondly, if we try to see from the perspective of, maybe because as a doctor I try to see that what nourishment one will get from the dry leaves. So when the body will not get nourishment, it will automatically means waning the fat is one thing, but not getting the required nutrients is the another thing, means which are helpful for keeping the body healthy, right? So if that also is one is not getting, that means one immunity will go down and one will welcome the many diseases, or one will thin down and ultimately go towards death. So is it that way? I was thinking that is it that means going to vanaprastha means actually preparing for one's death and willingly preparing. That is why bodily whole track is taken on that.
Yes, yes, it is like that, but there is no concept of disease there. In Vanaprastha austerities, they will not lead to disease. The disease done here only. Our eating only causes disease. No eating, no disease.
Okay, no, I was
Eating
feeling
is
that
disease. Overeating is more diseases.
because those leaves, no, Prabhuji, dry leaves eating and only roots. So I
Dry
was
leaves
thinking,
means not every. We don't have the details about what leaves they eat. Not every leaf. Some leaves they may take which are consumable. For example, tulsi leaves, even they become dry, also we take it. Nah, there is no harm in that.
yeah,
So some
okay,
like that. Some leaves they might be consumable, then they may take. Not every leaf
okay.
that is available,
Because I
and
was thinking,
that too not every day. You kindly remember Dhruva Maharaj austerities. He was eating berries once in every 3 days. Then he was eating leaves once in every 6 days. Maybe 3, 4 leaves once in 6 days. They get digested over the time. They don't cause any disease.
okay,
And there the mind is not thinking too much. The body is no need to perform any mental activities. So they don't need so much energy also. They are simply, especially in those days, they were performing that Ashtanga Yoga. So
yeah.
that does not require so much
Because Dhruva
uh,
Maharaj was
food.
standing and doing
Uh,
austerity, no, Prabhuji. So
yes, same thing.
standing.
Yeah, Malayadvaja also doing the same thing, and Pruthumara also was doing same thing. Everyone was doing same thing. So
Because for
that
us, Kali Yuga Jiva, it seems like, like some story. It is nowhere we come near to it and can't even think of eating dry leaves or something like that. So I was feeling
why
ki
you are
how.
bothered about dry leaves? It's okay. Dry leaves नहीं तो dry fruits खा सकते हैं जो मिलता है वो.
Okay.
See, it's not a see. It's all about how one is getting detached from the worldly things. The mood is like that.
Yeah.
See one thing. Our modern day Vanaprastha is like that. Forget about eating habits. If we retire from controllership within the family, that itself is Vanaprastha. That's the greatest austerity one can do. Giving
Right.
away the controllership over the family members.
Right.
And not only family members, giving away controllership, whatever one does, something. That is the biggest austerity in Kali Yuga. Very difficult.
Yeah. But many times, Prabhuji, like what you are saying is perfectly right. But many times we see that the situations are such where person cannot leave their responsibilities. Like even in the temple, if you see, so preaching responsibilities are there, or so many other things are there. So
It's okay,
person,
it's okay, it's okay. But doesn't mean that if we don't do preaching, we'll stop. It is not like that. One should preach as long as one's energy allows. When one is getting ready to leave, one should leave behind the preaching also. Others will continue.
yeah,
Otherwise, stay back for preaching, no problem. Who is asking you to go? Stay back for preaching in this life, next life, next life, next life. No, no question in that. See, here we are studying something about going back. Scriptures not only saying that, I mean, if we somebody has a desire to go back and serve Krishna in spiritual world, this is the process. Someone want to serve the Lord, staying back here preaching. No problem. Well and good. Continue. No issue. We are not giving a judgment here. We are just studying the Shastra. We are studying the process.
Okay, so essence of everything is whichever ashram we may be or whichever stage of life we may be, when the age advances, one should mentally as well as physically try to detach from the whole process what one was doing lifelong. And means
Yes.
जो निर्जन भजन की बात हुई है, like how the spiritual master should do, so everyone should try to go more introspect and try to connect with the Lord in that way,
Yeah.
rather than
Here you should not take Nirjan Bhajan as a secluded bhajan. Nirjan Bhajan means without controllership, without rulership, without the concept of being respected, being served, not like that. Even though staying in the midst of all the devotees, staying in the midst of the family, staying in the midst of temple, but not expecting that others should listen to me, they should follow whatever I say, they should serve me, they should treat me as the most senior most Varishta Vaishnav, not that kind of things.
yeah. So one may immerse oneself in the scriptural studies and things like that, and whatever little responsibilities somebody gives, one, if it is
No
possible.
responsibility, no responsibility.
Okay.
Vanaprastha means no responsibility.
Okay. So nice. Yeah.
One who is see, it's not, I mean, forget about Vanaprastha. One who is getting ready, prepared to go back, that's all, no responsibility here. Just get ready for that.
Yeah.
See, you are working in a company, you are a doctor. Of course, you must be having your own clinic. If by chance, if you are working in some big hospital, you've already given up your resignation. It is your last working day. After last working day, also you will go to hospital and work.
No.
That's all. That is Vanaprastha.
Yeah.
Vanaprastha means taking relief from the job. Afterwards, no more responsibilities in the company or hospital.
Right. Yeah. Yes, Praveen. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, other devotees, any questions?
No, Prabhuji, thank you.
See, one thing kindly understand, though we may hear in our ISKCON movement generally that till the last breath we should preach, we should preach. That is the concept, that is the mode, that is a good mode. I'm not saying no for that. That is required, that mentality is required. But according to Bhagavatam, whatever is going on in the current subject matter, as we studied in Romara section, Putumara section, this section also, at least a few years or a few months in one's last stages of life, one should devote more and more time for exclusive bhajan, getting prepared to leave the body in a honorable way. That concept is being indicated here, at least. So in the past, the kings used to take to Vanaprastha and go to forest and perform severe austerities. The king means basically living in the midst of opulences for so many years, royal opulence, as we see in the movies and dramas. The king means royally decorated, royally dressed. So for the same king to come out of that conception of the Ishvara Bhava, ruler, the Raja, they are recommended to practice serious vows, serious vratas in the Vanaprastha order. The same thing is applicable for Brahmanas also. They also need to follow the same austerities. So that the mentality of the Ishvara Bhava should be taken out completely.
One of the lecture otherwise in my head.
Louder, louder.
One of the lecture is always Vaidharbhi Maharaj. He was saying, basically was addressing to Grasta. Grasta were very absorbed in all the worldly duties and difficult for them to focus. The other one Maharaj said, yes, we are responsible, but at least once in a year, you should die for a week.
Yes.
You should not have any, no connection with all. Should have something for a week.
I think tomorrow or day of tomorrow in the Bhagavatam class, temple Bhagavatam class, the one of the verses will say, maybe may not be tomorrow, but in the coming verses, one verse says that understanding the endless nature of the worldly duties, Yudhishthira Maharaj prepared his mind and then traveled to north acting like a dumb man. He did not even say to the other Pandavas that I am leaving. Having heard that Krishna departed from the surface of the earth from Arjuna, he made Parikshit Maharaj the next king. Immediately called Parikshit, come, sit, and removed his crown and put it on the head of Parikshit Maharaj and changed his clothes. He wore bare clothes, very bare minimum cotton khadi dress, one dhoti, and then started for north without speaking, without saying any word. I think Jadavat. So it's like that.
One
That
place
kind of detachment one should have.
I'll just like to add, Prabhuji, in one place, in one of the lecture, Prabhupada had said that yes, at the end of the life, one should retire and do the bhajan in Vrindavan. But unless you have preached sufficiently throughout the life, you won't be able to do the bhajan at the end of going to Vrindavan. For that, you must have preached sufficiently throughout the life. Then you can do the bhajan at the end in Vrindavan.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
शीतोष्णवात वर्षाणि शुत्तिपासे प्रिया प्रिये सुखदुःखे इति द्वन्द्वानि अजयत् समदर्शना.
Through austerity, King Malayadvaja, in body and mind, gradually became equal to the dualities of cold and heat, happiness and distress, wind and rain, hunger and thirst, the pleasant and the unpleasant. In this way, he conquered all relativities.
So what kind of austerities Malayadvaja performed in the forest? Couple of verses talk about that. Seeing all things equally, he conquered the dualities of cold and heat, wind and rain, hunger and thirst, favorable and unfavorable conditions, happiness and distress. This is the purpose for which the austerity is supposed to be performed. One should become Dvandvatita. One should go beyond the dualities. That's what Lord Krishna tells in the second chapter, Atmarama verses, 5th chapter, 6th chapter, and 12th chapter. 5th chapter for a Jnana Yogi, 6th chapter for a Ashtanga Yogi, 12th chapter for a Bhakti Yogi. All these people also should go beyond the dualities. That is the ultimate requirement. Then only we are ready for going back to Godhead. Otherwise, not. Tapasa vidyaya pakva kashayo niyamer yuyuje brahmani atmanam vijitaksha nilashaya.
By worshipping, executing austerities, and following the regulative principles, King Malayadvaja conquered his senses, his life, and his consciousness. Thus, he fixed everything on the central point of the Supreme Brahman, Krishna.
Yeah. Burning all impurities by austerity, knowledge, yama, and niyama, and conquering his senses, life, air, and mind. He controlled his senses, he controlled breathing, he controlled his mind. Thus, he was completely fixed on Vasudeva. That means he come to Samadhi platform. By the practice of Ashtanga Yoga, gradually come to Samadhi platform. Brahmani means Vasudeva by the context of following verses. Atmanam is the mind. So basically, of course, I am saying Ashtanga Yoga because considering it to be Satya Yoga or Trita Yoga times. So basically, he was practicing Bhakti Yoga only. He was doing Smaranam, Nama Smaranam, Lila Smaranam, Dhyanam, etc. And he had come to the platform of Samadhi or Smaranam. His mind is able to do Smaranam for 24/7. Then the state to which our Malayadvaja had come to. Aste sthanur ivaikatra divyam varshashatam stira vasudeve bhagavati nanyat vedodvahandatim.
In this way, he stayed immortal in one place for 100 years by the calculation of demigods. After this time, he developed pure devotional attraction for Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead, and remained fixed in that position.
This verse says that he continued to do Smaranam for Divya Varshatakam. For 100 years of Devatas, he remained fixed in one place. possessing Rati for the Supreme Lord Vasudeva, he was not aware of anything else. He had come to Bhava platform. In that Bhava platform, he was simply meditating on Lord's Nama Rupa Gun. Smaranam is going on only, nothing else. For 100 celestial years. Hmm. Okay. By such remembrance in Bhakti, continuous Rasi for the Lord appears. Bhava manifested in his heart. So by such Bhakti. So Prabhupada says that Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prabhatate Vasudevan Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudharlabha. For our case, it will take many lifetimes so that we will come to the platform of Bhava and Prema. So in the case of Malayadvaja, it took a lot of time. Basically, in that Bhava platform, he could release past tense a lot for a long time. That is understand. Sya Vyapakatayatmanam व्यतिरिक्ततयात्मनि विद्वान् स्वप्नैवामर्षा साक्षिणं विररामः.
In
King
Malayadvaja,
Malayadvaja attained the perfect knowledge by being able to distinguish the super soul from the individual soul. The individual soul is localized, whereas the super soul is all pervasive. He became perfect in knowledge that the material body is not the soul, but that the soul is the witness of the material body.
Momentarily realizing the Lord externally in all things and internally as well, he then fainted. It was like seeing a dream whose witness is internal reflection. So now, after for 100 years of Devatas, having gone through Lila Smaranam, Nama Smaranam, Guna Smaranam, okay, in the Bhava platform, he suddenly had the darshan of Supreme Lord. If you remember in the first canto, we have seen that na? The 14 stages of Bhakti. I don't know whether you remember or not. But in the first canto, there was a discussion about second chapter, how Bhakti progresses. Tatam Krupa, Maha Seva, Ado Shraddha, Bhajana Kriya, Sadhu Sangha, Artha Nivrutti, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, Prema, Hari Darshana, Hari Madhurya Anubhava. After Prema, there appears Hari Darshan. Then one experiences Hari Madhurya Anubhava. One experiences the Madhurya of Lord Hari. That he got now. He was in Bhava platform for 100 celestial years. Then he attained Prema. Then suddenly he had darshan of Lord internally and externally. Just like Narada Muni also had darshan of the Lord internally. Dhruva Maharaj also had darshan of the Lord internally and then externally. Same thing happened to Malayadvaja also. It is said that by that Bhava, the Lord appeared everywhere. He realized the Lord has a form suddenly appearing in all directions because of the appearance of Bhava, and he realized the Lord within himself. By the fire of eagerness of Prema, he fainted. As soon as he saw the Lord everywhere outside and within himself, within his own heart, he fainted.
Saw Parama.
Not what Paramatma, he saw Lord only. Paramatma became Bhagavan and gave darshan. He saw the Lord externally, outside, manifesting everywhere, and he saw the Lord inside in the core of his heart, manifesting within, and immediately with that experience of the Lord, he fainted. The separation was not fully relieved by the sudden appearance of the Lord arising from intense separation. Till now, of course, here his fainting is like Narada Muni thing. Narada Muni also had darshan of the Lord for a second, then Lord disappeared. Same that Malayadvaja also had darshan of the Lord for small time and then disappeared. That's why he fainted. Or he fainted because Lord darshan is so profuse, so wonderful. That's why he fainted. The separation was not fully relieved by the sudden appearance of the Lord arising from intense separation. All these days, he was performing severe austerities with a desire to see the Lord and serve the Lord in person. Now suddenly Lord appeared. The eagerness to see the Lord is so much, and Lord appeared, his eagerness is not completely satisfied. So in that way, the separation happens for the over the many years. He had longing to see the Lord. The Lord suddenly appeared. The separation was not fully relieved by the sudden appearance of the Lord, arising from intense separation. An example is given. It was just like knowing something in a dream. When we try to understand about something in a dream, we are not completely satisfied. One example is given. The hunger of a person is not relieved by eating food in a dream. Are we feel nourished by eating food in the dream? No, because in reality the stomach is not filled. It is only in the dream something is happening. The desire to eat is there, but if you eat something in the dream, it will not quench our hunger. What is the proof of such appearance of the Lord? The function of the antakarana called reflection in the witness. So how can you say that Malayadvaja had the darshan of the Lord within himself? Just like you are saying that eating something in the dream is not actual eating, and having the darshan of the Lord within himself is not equal to the having darshan of the Lord externally. So how can I say that he had darshan of the Lord? Some question might come. So what is the proof of the such appearance of the Lord? The functions of the antakarana called reflection in the witness, not a person with an eye. One may say that, okay, unless until I see the Lord with my physical eyes, I cannot believe that Lord, I see the Lord. But not necessary. Lord darshan can happen within the core of the heart also. What is the proof? The antakarana, manbuddhi, ahankara, chetana. They have their own eyes. They can see. They have subtle senses. They can see through the subtle senses. Because the pain of separation does not disappear by the functioning of the antakarana within his internal vision, he also realized the Lord who had appeared in his vision directly with his eyes. Just like hunger is not removed by eating something in the dream, similarly, the separation of Malayadvaja is not satisfied, not removed by simply having darshan of the Lord internally alone. In order to remove that, the pain of separation from the Lord for so many years of his intense practice, Lord also appeared externally so that he can become thoroughly satisfied. So with that intention, Lord appeared internally also, Lord appeared externally also. That is the understanding. Any questions? Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, there are two doubts that this is an allegorical story. So, how we see Malayadvaja going through this, that means Malayadvaja is spiritual master in the allegorical story. So, uh, does it mean that spiritual master at the end of his life he is completely with the in union with the Lord and he sees the Lord? Is it to be seen that way or how?
Now, whatever Malayadvaja is doing here, a spiritual master also will do the same thing.
Okay.
The activities are same. The sadhana is same. The personalities in two stories are different, but sadhana is same. There is no change in sadhana.
Okay. That means spiritual master will be doing all this towards the end. That's what it means now.
And things will change according to time and circumstances. In the past, they used to do all these things, severe austerities. In the modern day times, one may not do all these things, but at least one should do Nirjan Bhajan. And Nirjan Bhajan means thoda exclusive bhajan. So that is the understanding.
Yes. Okay. And another thing, Prabhuji, like how we saw here that he was not satisfied with the darshan of the Lord only internally, but
Yes.
he wanted the external darshan also. He was aspiring for or having thirst for that. So generally we see that the yogis, they are very much satisfied when they see the Paramatma or form of the Lord inside or within them.
For
But
that, that
should
is enough for the yogis because yogis only
yeah,
want to go to Brahman. But
yeah, so
devotees want to see the Lord and serve the Lord. They are always eager to see the Lord so that they can serve the Lord.
yeah,
Both
so
are different.
that's what I was saying. That means we should take it as that devotee are never satisfied only with that, the internal darshan of the Lord like yogis, but they
Yes.
want the external darshan also. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
We discussed this many times. The devotees they say that finally, my dear Lord, I am done with serving your deity. Now I want to serve you in person. Please come. Or please take me to the place where you are. That should be the determination. That should be the desire. What was the verse? 9 chapter 22? Not 22. 8:22 or 9 something. Ananya? Ananya Chintayanto Mam Ye Jana Parivipasite Tesham Nitya Abhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vamyam. Ananya Chintayanto Mam, no other Chinta, only one Chinta. Tesham Nitya Abhiyuktanam. From now on, I want to serve you alone in your spiritual abode. Nowhere else, no one else. Not even your deity. So that should be the one and only desire when one is ready to go back to Godhead. So that is understanding. So, other devotees, any questions?
No, Prabhuji, thank you.
Okay.
Takes this much of time, 100 years of learning God.
No, not that is the storyline. Prabhupada said that Bhavanam Janmanam. For our case, it may take many lifetimes. If one is so intense, one it can happen in one lifetime only. Because the story is about Malayadvaja, in that context, it is said 100 celestial years. Their life, as Prabhuji mentioned, their Satyayuga people, their lifespan is very long. So in that way.
6,000 years now.
100,000 years में
100 years, then God's place here.
कुछ तो भी. So basically, Bhakti will continue for the rest of eternity. The understanding is Bhakti will continue for the rest of eternity. Once you take it, it will continue. So in that way. So we'll have a small break. We will continue after a couple of minutes. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, devotees are there?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Sakshat Bhagavatoktena Guruna Harina Nrupa Vishuddha Jnana Deepena Purata Vishwato Mukam Pare Brahmani Chatmanam Param Brahma Tatatmani Vikshamano Vihayeksham Asmat Upararamaha.
In this way, King Malayadvaja attained perfect knowledge because in his pure state he was directly instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By means of such enlightening transcendental knowledge, he could understand everything from all angles of vision. King Malayadvaja could thus observe that the Supersoul was sitting by his side and that he, as the individual soul, was sitting by the side of the Supersoul. Since both were together, there was no need for separate interests. Thus, he ceased from such activities.
Here it says that, O King, by direct vision of the Lord, internally and externally, who takes away all suffering, Harina, shining brightly everywhere, Spurarat Vishwato Mukam, by the lamp of pure knowledge, taught by Guru concerning Lord's sweetness, Kuruna Vishuddha Jnana Deepena. King Malayadvaja saw himself possessing love for the Lord. Vikshmana Pare Brahmanicha Atmanam, and saw that the Lord also possessing love for him. Param Brahma Tata Atmani. So, having studied and learned from the Guru that who the Lord is all about, when he had darshan of the Lord, he recognized and he saw that he himself possessed lot of love for the Lord and Lord is also possessed lot of love for him. And after losing that vision because of fainting, he gave up all connection with the grass and subtle bodies. That means he had darshan, Hari, Madhura Anubhava, and then he fainted. Fainting means he left his body. Lord gave his darshan and took him back to Godhead. Final. Lord personally came to take him back to Godhead. So that is the understanding. Then, when Prema arose, he saw the Lord directly, both internally and externally. By the Supreme Lord who takes away all suffering, with bright effulgence spreading everywhere, and by the lamp of knowledge, the means of realizing the Lord's sweetness, what is taught by the Guru. The lamp of knowledge is that is taught by the Guru. Srila Prabhupada quotes the verse in the purport. Tesham sata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogantum yena upayante. Lord gave that buddhi yoga. Here in the case of Malayadvaja, he had received that knowledge from the Guru about the transcendental nature of the Lord, transcendental attributes of the Lord. When whatever he learnt from the Guru and when it is corroborated with what he is seeing now, the Lord is standing in front of him. Then he was completely bliss. He was in bliss. And by the lamp of knowledge, the means of realizing the Lord's sweetness, what is taught by the Guru, one sees himself as the possessor of Rati for the Supreme Brahman. He is seeing himself as the devotee having lot of love for the Lord. Because it has already been said that Vasudeve Bhagavati Na Anyad Vedodvaham Ratim. Other than Rati for Lord Vasudeva, he has nothing else in his mind. He saw only that he had Rati for Lord Vasudeva, nothing else. And he also saw Lord also had Rati for him. The Lord also said that Ye etamam prapadyante tam stava bhajamaham. According to how they surrender to me, I reward them. Because Malayadvaja had lot of love toward the Lord, lot of eagerness to see the Lord, lot of eagerness to serve the Lord. Lord is facilitating that. Thus, he saw the Lord to be fully attractive for him. He saw the Lord to be full of attraction for him. Atmani Parabrahman. At that moment, giving up that vision because of fainting in bliss, he lost interest in grass and subtle coverings completely. Having seen the Lord, he thought, no need to stay here anymore even for a second. Now I am going with the Lord to the spiritual world. Bye bye to material world. So in that way. That's how he went back to Godhead. This is the story of Malayadvaja. That is the story of the spiritual master. And that should be the story of every jiva and every disciple. Like that, one should leave the body. That is the intent of Narada Muni in describing this pastime. So, in that way. There are some supporting notes. It's okay. I'll just briefly go through. It says that, but those who favor the regal aspect of the Lord explain the 3 verses in the following way. Last 3 verses. The king, Malayadvaja, knowing the Supreme Lord as all pervading and also situated within the Jiva, gave up samsara. Examples are given of such vision. How do we understand that he had darshan of the Lord? All pervasiveness of the Lord is similar to the witness of reflection, the mind, which spreads through the body of the Jiva. The witness of reflection, the mind, which spreads through the body of the Jiva. How King Malayadvaja perceived the presence of the Lord all over the forest, all in front of him. That is, though our mind is there in the core of the heart, but mind understands what is happening all over the body. In the corner of the feet, in the small finger, there is some pain. The mind understands there is a pain in the corner of the small finger of the left feet. Though it is locally situated in the core of the heart, but its influence is spread all over the body. Similarly, the Lord's darshan. He saw the Lord being present everywhere, all over. So in that way. This is the explanation of others. Many people give different explanation to these verses. So it is being quoted like this. The Lord within is similar to realizing in deep sleep that there is only the Atma, for one says, I slept soundly. Sapna, not Sapna. Jagruti, Sapna, Sushupti. In Jagruti, we are aware of our body and external world. In Sapna, we are not aware about gross body and the external world also. But mind is awake. The mind creates a new world for us. We are aware of different world during the Sapna. But in Sushupti, we are not even aware of the mind. We are only aware that we are existing. Only Astitva, Sushupti, deep sleep. So that is the experience of oneself being Atma, no identity with the gross body or spiritual body in Sushupti. So that is the understanding. How does this knowledge arise? It arises from the Lord who is the witness. Dadami buddhi yogantam yenama upayantite. I give intelligence by which one attains me. By the lamp of that knowledge, one sees in the Supreme Lord, who is the Ashraya Tattva, the pure Jiva. By the lamp of that knowledge, one sees the Supreme Lord and one sees the Jiva, both. Dadami buddhi yogantam yenama upayantite. One realizes oneself and the Supreme Lord only by the buddhi yoga given by the Supreme Lord. And he sees the pure Jiva and you, the Supreme Lord, presiding over the Jiva. After attaining prema, one gives up the process of reflection, vihaya iksham, because the Bhagavatam is like Mohini Avatara, giving nectar to the devotees and cheating the demons. Others interpret these verses differently. The devotees do not accept these interpretations. I mean, different people explain the meaning of these verses differently. So they explain that, okay, just like mind spreads all over the body, understands what is happening all around. That's how the yogi understands the presence of the Lord everywhere, being pervaded. And then eventually he experiences himself, he experiences the super soul, he attains Brahman. That's how the yogis interpret the meaning of these verses. That's how it is explained. So next, text number 43. Patim paramadharmagnyam Vaidharbhi Malayadvajam Premna Paryachara Bhogansa Patidevata.
The daughter of King Vidarbha accepted her husband all in all as the supreme. She gave up all sensual enjoyment and in complete renunciation followed the principles of her husband who was so advanced. Thus she remained engaged in his service.
There in the Pruthumara's Kandish case, Pruthumara's austerities and his giving up life is explained. Afterward, Archie's austerities were explained. Then Archie prepared the final rites and everything. The same storyline comes here. So Vaidharbhi, seeing her husband as the Lord, served her husband, the highest knower of Dharma, Parama Dharmajnam, with complete devotion, Premna, giving up all enjoyment for herself. So having gone to the forest, having given up the palace, children, and all the opulences, she served her husband, seeing husband as the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada writes in the purport that same way, the disciple should also serve the spiritual master. That is explained in the next 4 verses. So we'll read this purport and the next purport. These are the instructions for the disciple. Fortunately, figuratively, King Malayadvaja is the spiritual master and the wife Vaidharbhi the disciple. The disciple accepts the spiritual master, the supreme personality of Godhead, as stated by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakura. Guru Ashtaka, Saksha Daritvena. One directly accepts the Guru, the spiritual master, the supreme personality of Godhead. One should accept the spiritual master not in the sense that the Mayavadi philosophers do, but the way recommended here. Since the spiritual master is the most confidential servant of the Lord, he should be treated exactly like the Supreme Lord. The spiritual master should never be neglected by or disobeyed like an ordinary person. Na varte buddhya asiyeta. So one should never treat the spiritual master with marte buddhi and one should never envy the spiritual master. If a woman is fortunate enough to be the wife of a pure devotee, she can serve the husband without any desire for sense gratification. If she remains engaged in service of her exalted husband, she will automatically attain the spiritual perfections of her husband. If a disciple gets a bona fide spiritual master simply by satisfying him, he can attain a similar opportunity to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So wife by serving the husband gets the same perfection. Disciple by serving the Guru gets the same perfection. So that is the understanding. The disciple remains serving the Guru until attaining perfection. That is shown in next 4 verses. It is further explained. Chiravasa vratakshama Veni bhuta shiroruha Babav upapatim santa Shika santam ivanalam.
The daughter of King Vidarbha wore old garment and she was lean and thin because of her vows of austerity. Since she did not arrange her hair, it became entangled and twisted in locks. Although she remained always near her husband, she was silent and unagitated as a flame of an undisturbed fire.
Wearing old clothing. When she was in Antapura, every day she would wear new clothes, but now she is wearing old clothes. Thin because of austerity. With hair tangled, now the hair is matted. Previously hair was combed, now it is matted. Peaceful, like the coals of a fire without flame. She remained by the side of her husband. Upa means near the husband, slightly lower in position. She was peaceful like the coals of a fire, just shining but without smoke. She also followed the same austere life of her husband. So in that way. So Prabhupada also explains in this purport about how a disciple should serve the spiritual master. When one begins to burn the firewood, there is smoke and agitation in the beginning. Although there are so many disturbances in the beginning, once the fire completely set, the firewood burns steadily. Similarly, when both husband and wife follow the regulatory principles of austerity, they remain silent and are not agitated by sex impulses. At such a time, both husband and wife are benefited spiritually. One can attain this stage of life by completely giving up a luxurious mode of life. So then they should accept simple recess. The disciples should simply engage in the service of the woman should engage in the service of her husband, who must be a pure devotee. The wife will never be agitated by sex impulses, etc. Basically, the disciple should continue to serve the spiritual master, staying next to him, allowing austere mode of lifestyle. So in that way, that is being indicated. Both the stories are there. Wife and husband, disciple and guru. So this concept was there also in the 22nd chapter or 23rd chapter of third canto. After the marriage of Devoti and Karma, Devoti also started karma very nicely. In the purport, Prabhupada said that disciple should serve the spiritual master like this. So in that way. And Prabhupada explains all other things mentioned in the verse. Ajanati priyatamam yedo parataram angana sustitarasanam asadhya yata purvam upacharat.
The
The
daughter
daughter
of King Vidarbha continued as usual to serve her husband, who was seated in a steady posture until she could ascertain that he had passed away from the body.
When he passed away, she approached her dead husband, sitting in a fixed position, and served him as before, unaware of his passing. So Malayadvaja was sat in Padmasan, and while meditating on the Lord, he had darshan, and then left the body. She did not even know that he passed away. As usual, she continued to serve him that day also. And eventually, when she touched his feet, then she understood the feet is not warm, it was very cold. Then she understood that her husband left the body. That is mentioned in the next verse. Yeda no palabetagrau ushmanam patyurarchati asait samvigna hridaya yuta brashta mrugiyata.
While she was serving her husband by massaging his legs, she could feel that his feet were no longer warm and could thus understand that he had already passed from the body. She felt great anxiety upon being left alone. Bereft of her husband's company, she felt exactly as the deer feels upon being separated from its mate.
When she could not feel warmth in her husband's feet as she served him, she became disturbed in heart, like a doe bereft of her partner. Serving him, she could feel warmth. She could not feel warmth. When she touched the feet of her husband, there is no warmth at all. So she understood that her husband passed away. So Prabhupada writes, as soon as the soul leaves the body, blood circulation stops, the warmth also stops in the entire body. The body becomes cold. Normally, doctors test whether person is alive or not by testing the pulse. Pulse is there or not. So in that way. Atmanam sochati dinam abandum viklavashrubhi tanav ashishcha vipine suswaram parurodasa.
Being now alone and a widow in that forest, the daughter of Vidarbha began to lament, incessantly shedding tears which soaked her breast and crying very loudly.
Yeah. Lamenting her pitiable condition without a husband, wetting her breast in with her tears, she cried loudly in the forest. Just like she is crying loudly for her last husband, a disciple also should cry like that when the spiritual master leaves. When the guru leaves his mortal body, the disciple becomes overcome with lamentation, the pain of separation, like a wife for her departed husband. That is described here. She lamented her condition. Who will protect me from now on? Thus, she became grief-stricken. Then Prabhupada writes, but however, the disciple and the spiritual master are never separated because the spiritual master always keeps company with the disciple as long as the disciple follows strictly the instructions of the spiritual master. Though the disciple might lament at the departure of the spiritual master, but the spiritual master continues to accompany him through his instructions. This is called the association of warning. Physical presence is called Vapu. As long as the spiritual master is physically present, the disciple should serve the physical body of the spiritual master. And when the spiritual master is no longer physically existing, the disciple should serve the instructions of the spiritual master, Vapu Seva and Vani Seva. So, in that way. Evam vilapanti bala vipinenugatā patim patita padayor bharto rudati ashruni avartayat.
That most obedient wife thus fell down at the feet of her dead husband and began to cry pitifully in that solitary forest. Thus the tears rolled down from her eyes.
Yeah. Sorry? Which So, sorry. So, 48, we missed the verse. Uttishtottishta rajarshe imam udadi mekalam dasyubhya kshatra bandubhyo dibhyatim patumarhasi. Get up, O saintly king. You must protect this frightened earth surrounded by the seas from thieves and false kings. The queen is requesting the king that, my dear king, you are the lord of the entire earth. Please get up. Who will protect if you are not there? Please get up. Somehow are trying to make him alive in that sense. And disciples should cry like this. O Guru, protect this earth in which you established Bhakti, which is now frightened by those opposing Bhakti. As long as you are there, you are like Sima Guru, you can conquer all the opposing parties. In your absence, you will protect Bhakti, which you have spread all over. The Bhakti will be destroyed by the opposing parties. Please get up and protect the Bhakti which you have spread all over. So like that, a disciple should feel pain of separation from the spiritual master. So Prabhupada writes the same principle. Whenever an Acharya comes following the spiritual order of the Supreme Lord or his representative, he establishes the principles of religion as enunciated in Bhagavad Gita. Religion means abiding by the order of the Supreme Lord. Dharmantu Sakshat Bhagavat Paranitam. Religious principles begin from the time one surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is the Acharya's duty to spread a bona fide religious system and induce everyone to bow down before the Supreme Lord. One executes the religious principles by rendering devotional service, specifically the 9 items like Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So in that way. Unfortunately, when the Acharya disappears, rogues and non-devotees take advantage and immediately begin to introduce unauthorized principles in the name of the so-called Swamis, Yogis, philanthropists, welfare workers, and so on. Actually, human life is meant to execute the orders of the Supreme Lord, and this is stated in Bhagavad Gita 9:34. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mameva satyam te. Sorry, mameva satyam atmanam matparayana. So one should do this. This is the instruction of Supreme Lord. Human life is meant to execute these 4 instructions of Supreme Lord. The main business of human society is to think of the Supreme Personality of God at all times, to become his devotees, to worship the Supreme Lord, and to bow down before him. The Acharya, the authorized representative of Supreme Lord, establishes these principles. But when he disappears, things once again become disordered. The perfect disciples of the Acharya try to relieve the situation by sincerely following the instructions of the spiritual master. At the present moment, practically the entire world is afraid of rogues and non-devotees. Therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement is started to save the world from irreligious principles. Everyone should cooperate with this movement in order to bring about actual peace and happiness in this world. Prabhupada is very humbly requesting all his followers to come together and work together to spread the movement of Krishna consciousness, to retain the peace and prosperity of the peace and happiness of the world. Otherwise, outside there is so much propaganda about adharma. So, in that way. Evam vilapanti bala vipinenuगता पतिं पतिता पादयोर्भर्तु रुदन्ति अश्रूनि अवर्तयत्.
That most obedient wife thus fell down at the feet of her dead husband and began to cry pitifully in that solitary forest. Thus the tears rolled down from her eyes.
Lamenting in the forest, the woman, obedient to her husband, falling at the feet of her husband, wailed and began to shed tears. She continued to cry for some time. So it is natural. Then what should you do? Chitim darumayim chitva tasyam patyu kalevaram adipya chanumarane vilampanti manodade.
She then prepared a blazing fire with firewood and placed the dead body of her husband upon it. When this was finished, she lamented severely and prepared herself to perish in the fire with her husband.
Yeah, this is same as Archi, Pruthumara's wife. After piling up wood and lighting fire on the body of her husband, on the pyre, in a state of lamentation, she decided to tie with her husband. She is about to enter into the fire on which her husband's dead body is getting burnt. She placed the body on the pyre and lit ablaze with fire. Having performed the last rites for his guru, the disciple then decides in his mind like this. Of course, here the storyline is between Vaidharbhi and Malayadvaja, but the spiritual significance is guru and disciple. And disciple thinks like this at the death of spiritual master. Separated from the feet of my guru, I cannot maintain my life. My body is burning in the fire of lamentation and remembering his qualities. I cannot put my energy in the bhakti of hearing and chanting that he taught. Therefore, I will die today. That is shown here. The disciple at the death of the spiritual master could not tolerate. Remembering the compassionate qualities of the Guru, he says that without you, I cannot practice bhakti anymore. There is no point in me living here. I'll come with you. Like that, disciple gets ready to enter into the same fire, same chiti. So that is the mood of a chaste wife and a chaste disciple. Srila Prabhupada talks about the sati, which used to happen in India, and how Britishers stopped it, because initially the wives were voluntarily entering into the fire. Later on, it has become a culture, and the people who used to throw, though the wife is unwilling to enter the fire. So when it has become a forced activity, then the government came in between and stopped that activity, and they brought a law. No one should do that in that way. There are many people worked about it, how to avoid that, etc., by bringing revolution in the culture. So Yes. Yes, many people. In the second paragraph, Prabhupada explains about the current context. This indicates that a devotee's wife must be prepared to act in such a way. Similarly, a devoted disciple of the spiritual master would rather die with the spiritual master than fail to execute the spiritual master's mission. As the Supreme Lord comes down upon this earth to re-establish the principles of religion, so his representative, the spiritual master, also comes to re-establish the religious principles. It is the duty of the disciple to take charge of the mission of the spiritual master and execute it properly after the demise of the spiritual master. Otherwise, the disciple should decide to die along with the spiritual master. In other words, to execute the will of the spiritual master, the disciple should be prepared to lay down his life and abandon all personal considerations. Leave and take the mission of the spiritual master or die with the spiritual master. So, like that. Do or die. So that's how in the past many purports Prabhupada talks about the duties of the disciple toward the master and after the spiritual master, etc. etc. So now the story changes. The dead body of the Malayadvaja was there on the chitti. It is under fire. Vaidharbhi is about to enter into that fire. Suddenly one person comes and stops. So my dear lady, please wait. I have something to talk to you. So like that. Now there is some interruption. There Archie entered into the fire without any interruption. But either Vaidharbhi had a interruption. So let us see who is interrupting her and why he is interrupting her, what is his purpose in interrupting her, etc. etc. Any questions from devotees online till now?
No, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Tatra पूर्वतरः कश्चित् सका ब्राह्मण आत्मवान् सान्त्वयं वल्गुनः साम्ना ताम् आह रुदतीं प्रभो.
My dear,
One Brahmana who was an old friend of King Pranjana came to the place and began to pacify the queen with the sweet words.
Yeah. In that place, as she wailed, "O Master, O Prabhu," a previous Brahmana friend with composed nature, completely peaceful, pacifying her with sweet words, spoke. When she was lamenting that, "My dear Lord, my dear husband, I am coming with you," when she was about to enter into the fire, a composed, calm Brahmana came and kind of trying to pacify her. He was beginning to speak few words, few sweet words to her. In a state similar to separation from Guru, if one has pain in separation from the Lord will appear. That is indicated here. Even in the Bhagavatam verses, when Arjuna was explaining to Yudhishthira Maharaj that how Krishna helped them in each and every difficulty in their entire life, finally he remembered Bhagavad Gita, the instructions of Lord Krishna, and he became composed. Same thing here. The friend from previous time, Avijñāt Saka, is the Lord with no beginning, is the Paramatma basically. In the first verse of Puranjana story, it is mentioned. His name is Puranjana, he had a friend, unknown friend, Avijñāt Saka. And that Avijñāt Saka is appearing now as Brahmana. Who is that Avijñāt Saka? Shvetavadar Upanishad says, Dvav Suparna Sayuja Sakaya. Samanam Vruksham Pari Sasvajate. Tayor Anya Pippalam Sadvi Atti Asannam Anyo Abhi Chakshati. The Lord is situated with the Jiva in the body like two birds in a tree. One of them is relishing the taste of the tree's berries, while the other refrains from eating and instead watches over his friend. Tayor of the two, Anya, the other bird, Pippalam Sadvi, trying to enjoy the fruits of the pipal tree. But the other one, Anashanam. Anashanam means food. Atti Anashanam, trying to enjoy the fruits one after the other. Anyo Abhichakamshati. But the other bird is simply waiting for the first bird when he will look after me, when he will look towards me. So, in that way.
This from Shweta
This is from Shweta Upanishad. He had the dress of a Brahmana. The Paramatma, who is the second bird, had the dress of the Brahmana. If a person does not have prema for the Lord, if a person does not have prema, the Lord does not reveal himself directly to that person. So Vaidharbhi served her husband because she had prema for her husband. A disciple serves the spiritual master because he has love for the spiritual master. For such a person, the Lord comes himself. Atmavan means the Lord was situated in his Swarupa, but that was covered over. So, in that way. So, just like Puranjani, not Puranjani here, Vaidharbhi had so much love and respect for her husband, she was serving him, even in the forest, with all the, in the midst of all the austerities. When she was about to follow her husband after death, the Paramatma appeared in front of her as a Brahmana, so that he can pacify her, give good counsel, so that she will attain right destination. Similarly, a disciple dedicates one's life for the spiritual master. The Supreme Lord will take care of the disciple after the spiritual master. So that is the understanding. And Srila Prabhupada goes into many details. So how Lord takes care of the devotees who have taken shelter of the spiritual master completely. Tesham sarta yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yenamopayandite. Lord will give buddhiyoga so that they will come to him. And also from Krishna Karanamrita also, Mukti Swayam Mukulutanjali Sevate Asmat. For such a disciple, Mukti comes on its own to serve him. But still the disciple wants to serve the Lord. So in that way. That is the kind of dedication disciple shows to serve the Guru and Lord. In that way. And the rest of the chapter is all about the Brahmana speaking sweet words to Vaidharbhi. And for us, Paramatma is speaking to us.
Is it like that probably when somebody is sincere, when Lord has taken you to direct him to, he doesn't speak to him directly, but he directly him to the spiritual master. And then the spiritual master
No, spiritual master is not there, na? He passed
spiritual
away.
master is gone, then again Lord, because of advancement.
See,
he
Lord
should
is
come inside.
Lord Krishna, yes, seen. Lord Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Now Lord disappeared. Arjuna remembered the entire Bhagavad Gita once again. See, when somebody passes away, we have memorial. What do we do in the memorial? We remember our memories with that person. What all good things he has done to us. How he inspired us in our entire life. Same thing. So here the Paramatma will reveal.
It's initially because the disciple person now Lord doesn't speaks as an inside Chaitanya.
Yes.
He gives somebody extra mind. Then again,
But now disciple got to the extent that I can't stay anymore without my Guru. He is ready to die. What else you want? What best? What more than that one can want?
that time Lord is from inside he guides.
Yes. So in that way.
That every disciple actually the stage or one who's that serious.
Who is that serious? Not for every disciple. Who is that serious? Who is ready to give up on his body for the sake of Guru? So now Paramatma is speaking. Katvam kasya siko vayam shayano yasya soshasi Janasi kim sakayam mam yenagre vichacharartaha.
The Brahmana
The
inquired
The
as
Brahmana,
follows. Who are you? Whose wife or daughter are you? Who is the man lying here? It appears you are lamenting for his dead body. Don't you recognize me? I am your eternal friend. You may remember that many times in the past you have consulted me.
So here Prabhupada writes in the first paragraph, when a person's relatives die, some family members die, renunciation is automatically visible. Consultation with the supreme super soul seated within everyone's heart is possible only when one is completely free from the contamination of material attachment. One who is sincere and pure gets an opportunity to consult with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his Paramatma feature, situating within everyone's heart. The Paramatma is always the Chaitya Guru, the spiritual master within, and comes before one externally as the instructor and initiating spiritual master. The Lord can reside within the heart and he can also come out before a person and give him instructions. That the spiritual master is not different from the super soul sitting within the heart. An uncontaminated soul or living entity can get a chance to meet the Paramatma face to face. Just as one get a chance to consult with the Paramatma within the heart, one also gets a chance to see him actually situated before him. Then one can take instructions in the super soul directly. This is the duty of the pure devotee, to see the bona fide spiritual master and consult with the super soul within the heart. That should be the goal of a disciple. So now, what is the discussion that is happening between the Brahmana and the Vaidharbhi here? Who is this lying here? Brahmana is asking the lady, who is this lying here on the funeral pyre? She said, he is my guru. According to the story, the answer is, he is my husband. She says, he is my husband. On answering that, the next question is, do you know me? Do you know me? Brahmana himself is asking, do you know me? And the lady says, you are a Brahmana. Then, oh, not externally, but exactly you know about me. Who am I? You are my friend. Because in the forest there is no one. He alone came there and she accepted as a friend. You are my friend. How did I become your friend? You are telling me as your friend. How did I become your friend? You wandered with me before the creation. From the point of view of the Atma Paramatma, you were there along with me before the creation. And after the creation also you are there along with me. But I forgot you. You are there throughout along with me in the core of the heart only, but I forgot you. This means along with me, you remained experienced happiness in my association. So from Vaidharbhi situation, I am in the forest, you are in the forest. I am going through forest activities, you are also going through forest activities. So you are my friend. From Jivatma and Paramatma, you and me both are together. Both of us are experiencing pain and pleasure living in this body. That's why you are my friend. So in that way. This is the conversation that is happening between the lady and the Brahmana. Now, further discussion. Api smaranti chatmanam avijnata sakam sake hitva mam padaman vichan bhauma bhoga rato gata.
The Brahmana continued, my dear friend, even though you cannot immediately recognize me, can't you remember that in the past you had a very intimate friend? Unfortunately, you gave up my company and accepted a position as enjoyer of this material world.
Now, the Brahmana himself is revealing about him. Though she gave some answers, but he is expanding on those answers. Do you remember yourself? Who were you in your previous life? In the previous lives? Who had an unknown friend? Avijñāsaka. Oh friend, giving me up, desiring a place for enjoyment. You became engaged in material enjoyment. Bhauma Bhoga Ratogata. In our previous life, you both were friends. You are searching for a township to stay in. And you got a what you got you got the Puranjani and city of 9 gates. You forgot me. You are simply listening to your wife only. You are not listening to me. You have never looked after me. Do you remember those days that you are Puranjana and you are a wife Puranjani? I am the same person whom you forgot long back. So in that way, I do not know anything. So the lady said, I don't know anything beyond this. Since both of us are in the forest, I am going through austerities. You are also going through austerity. That's why you are my friend. I don't know anything about you. Then the Brahmana says that, though you do not recognize me, do you remember yourself? Who you were in your previous life? Who had a friend you did not recognize? Avijñāsaka. Someone who was your friend but unrecognized by you. Okay, no problem. You don't know me. But do you know about yourself in your previous life? Who were you? And that time you had a friend. Can you remember? Or it can mean the friend of someone unknown. That someone was Puranjana. Do you remember about Puranjana? Do you know about Puranjana? He had a friend and the same friend. The form Sake is the masculine form for address. Though it presents Shiva a woman, this indicates that the Lord wants to make him remember the previous life as a man. So Paramatma wants to remind him that previously you are Puranjana. Remember that? He had a friend and the same friend. You please remember. She said, I cannot. I'll tell you why you cannot remember that. Giving me up, you became attached to enjoying in the company of Puranjani in the city of 9 gates. This means that the Jiva gave up the Lord at the beginning of the creation of the universe because of previous karmas. Because Jiva wanted to enjoy separate from the Supreme Lord, even though when the Paramatma accompanied Jivatma in the material world, but Jiva does not want to remember the Paramatma. If Jiva remember Paramatma, how can he enjoy? He cannot enjoy. Forgets Paramatma completely and becomes subservient of Puranjani and tries to enjoy in the material world life after life, life after life. So that is what we have seen in the story. Puranjana enjoyed with the wife, eventually died, went to hell, went to other species, went to heaven, then finally took birth in the family of Vaidharbhi, with the king of Vaidharbhi. Then eventually got married Malayadvaja. Then he got an opportunity to serve the devotee of the Lord, which enabled him to elevate his consciousness. Then now he had opportunity to speak to the Paramatma. And Paramatma reminding him, हम दोनों साथ में हैं भौतिक जगत में, आप आत्मा में परमात्मा, but you have given me up in the beginning only, and you are trying to enjoy in this material world. Ultimately today, I was waiting for you to turn towards me. Today, I've got the opportunity. There is no one for you now. Husband also passed away. He's on the funeral pyre. No one for you. Now, only thing you can remember is me.
Lord came out of his own will, no?
He knows will. So,
Hare Krishna.
yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, in the purport, it is said that in order to enjoy bliss more and more, the Supreme Lord expands himself in different categories. As mentioned in the Varaha Purana, he expands himself in Vishnu Tattva, the sponge expansions, and in his marginal potency, the Vibhinnamshas or the living entities. These expanded living entities are innumerable, just as the minute molecule of sunshine are innumerable expansions of the sun. The Vibhinnamsha expansions, the marginal potency of the Lord, are the living entities. And when the living entities desire to enjoy themselves, they develop a consciousness of duality and come to hate the service of the Lord. And in this way, the living entities fall into the material world. So, Prabhuji, in this, it is said that in order to enjoy the bliss more and more, Lord expanded as Swamshas and Vibhinnamshas. And Vibhinnamshas are the living entity. So, when Lord wanted to enjoy the bliss, and that is why He created the jivas. So, in like we are His part and particles. So, if the jivas also has the tendency to enjoy, how it is separate from the Lord, because the Lord has desire, means because of his desire to enjoy the bliss, he created us. That is why the jivas also have this tendency to enjoy. So how it should be taken, I was confused then. Where the jiva comes at fault, or because he wanted to enjoy, or it
Lord
is
had created, one second. You are the principle itself, you are making it wrong. Lord had expanded as Swamsha and Vibhinnamsha. And to want for what purpose? For enjoying. Enjoying how? Separately or together?
together, means he wanted jivas to serve him, and by that service he would have got the bliss. That's what the meaning is.
Okay. Then, yes.
Okay. Okay. So the jiva's bliss is in serving the Lord, but that they are not understanding, and that is why they are falling down from.
Yes. Krishna Bairmukha Hoya Bhogavancha Kare Nikatastha Mayatare Japatiyadare. So the living entities can be experiencing the utmost happiness being situated in the spiritual world and serving the Lord in harmony. The Lord is serving the devotees, devotees is serving the Lord, both are happy. When Jiva wanted to be happy alone without service to Supreme Lord, then the Jiva is in misery. That's all. Formula is very simple. Lord had created all the living entities to be happy in the company of all the living entities, by which all the living entities also will be happy. But when the living entities goes out of company of the Lord, they will be miserable. That's all. It is not a rocket science.
And also, like Prabhuji, Jeev is Anadi, like the Lord. It has no Adi. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, also the qualities of the soul we saw. So then, when Lord had created, means at some point we got created. There was some beginning of the Jiva. So then, how we understand the Anadi nature of the soul?
It's okay, Mataji. अनादि में तुम थोड़ा इधर उधर चलेगा. कब हुआ कैसे हुआ हमको पता नहीं. So that is beyond our comprehension. When it happened, how it happened, we don't understand all those things. So the principle is this: the Lord expanded as Vibhinnamsha Samsha for the purpose of exchanging the mutual happiness. That exchange is only possible in association with the spiritual world. But as long as we are in the material world, we will experience pain. So our first importance is to go back to Godhead, for which we need to work on what to do, how to do, and by doing what we can go and we can help others to go. That is more important than how it happened, when it happened.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thanks.
See the eternity of thing. So 1 crore years, 1 crore minus 1 year. Is there any difference?
No, quantitatively there is not much difference.
Qualitatively also there is not much difference. 1 crore तो crore ही होगा. Crore में से एक दो कम होगा तो ज्यादा होगा तो कुछ तेड़ा नहीं होगा. So it's like that. There are so many creations happening in the current creation. Brahma already completed 50 years. And in the current day, already 6 Manvantaras already completed. 7th Manvantara is going on. Just find out how many years passed. Just then looking at the number itself, mind boggling. Then you are talking about Jiva's creation, etc. That is when it happened, we don't know. And this Brahma is not the first Brahma. There must have been many other Brahmas might have appeared and gone. So what difference it makes by knowing when we were created?
It is not for the difference, Prabhuji, but it is the quality itself comes under problem. No? Like
Why problem? कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं, जो भगवान ने एक्सपेंड हुआ तो जीव को अभी भगवान का लक्षण रहेगा बस. Lord is Sachidananda Swarupa, Jeev also Sachidananda Swarupa. That's all.
okay, okay, Prabhuji.
See, sun is rising in the east. The sun rays are spreading all directions. So what will come first? Sun will come first or sun ray will come first?
Rays will reach us first. In, sun only is reaching in the form of rays.
This is all modern science. So sun rises. We also hear from modern science that the time required for the sun ray to travel from sun to the surface of the earth, it takes 80 minutes. So now we see sun and the sun is emitting a ray and that ray will come to us after 80 minutes. So which is first of these two?
Sun.
That way. So the ray will have some lag always. Same way, the Vibhinna Amsha will also have some lag with respect to the Supreme Lord. But both are same only. You can't say, I mean, we cannot calculate. So which ray is coming, when it is released. We have the number 8 minutes, something is there, but still we can't perceive really. And apparently we see sunlight first than the sun. Before sun rising, the light is there already. As you mentioned, sunrise reached before sun only. So it's like that.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, also in the same purport, like in the next page, it is written that consequently the super soul instructs him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Means super soul instructs to the Jiva. And the Lord then takes charge of the living entity. But unless the living entity is uncontaminated by material desires, he cannot surrender to the Supreme Lord. So I was confused regarding how do we see this in this light, the devotee's position. Like we means
Very
at
simple,
least
very simple. Don't analyze. What do you understand from Vaidharbhi? Does she has any other desire? Vaidharbhi.
other means she had only desire to serve her husband.
That's all. A disciple should also have only one desire to serve the spiritual master. Ananya Chintayanto Mam Ejana Pariyupaste Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Ekehi Kurunandana.
That's what Prabhuji like. Should we consider ourselves as devotee or not? Because if at least I'm talking for myself that if
See, Mataji, please. See, please. There is one thing. We are studying about what should be the preparatory stage at the time of death. So, to come to that point, we need to practice Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivrutti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti as Malayadvaja after marrying Vaidharbhi. They gave birth to 7 sons and 1 daughter. The daughter is desired to serve Guru and the Lord. How did they serve? By Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam. We need to do all those things. So this is the regular theme we are discussing from the beginning of Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita from the day 1 of our ISKCON days. So scripture does not always talk about what we should do today. Scripture talks about what one is supposed to do at different stages of life. So what we are reading today should not apply to our day-to-day activities now. None of us are preparing for death today, at least externally. We don't know, death might come tomorrow also, but we are not preparing for that. If at all that time comes, what should be our mentality is what is being discussed today in the purports, in the shlokas.
Yes, but here it is saying that we are also all trying to surrender to the Lord, no, as a devotee. So
Okay.
even if we are thinking of death or not thinking, that is not a question. But we are also trying to surrender to the Lord. But when it is said that unless we are, one is living entity is uncontaminated by material desires, he cannot surrender. So that is means what my point is we are still with so many material desires. So is it that our process of surrendering will remain incomplete till we completely become devoid of all material desires? It should
What
be
to
taken.
speak of material desires, we should be completely bereft of all spiritual desires also. We should only have one desire. My dear Lord, I am done with all the other material activities and spiritual activities. I just want to serve you in person in your abode.
Prabhuji, I
Even
think spiritual desires also we should not have.
okay. I have done enough preaching. Now enough. I want to come to spiritual abode. If one wants to go to spiritual world, that is the prerequisite you do. If one wants to stay here and continue to preach, they can stay here, no issue. Lord will never say no for them. If at all one wants to go back home back to God, there should be only one desire. Even no other desire to serve the deity only. What to speak of the other things?
But moment you are saying that one has to have desire to go back and serve the Lord there, that is also spiritual desire only, no, Prabhuji?
That is that one desire only I'm saying. That is also spiritual desire, but you should not have other desires. So I want to open temple in Satara, I want to open temple here, there, I want to start a Bhagavad Gita classes, I want to start that kind of desire should not be there.
No, but if one has the desire to immerse oneself in the Bhagavatam, study the scriptures,
That also
and
not there, should not be there. That also should
that
not be
is
there.
also okay. That is also the spiritual desire which will lead one to come to take the material birth again.
Not come to stay here only and continue the same thing. Changing the body is the external thing.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Because I used to always think that if we, yeah, sorry, Prabhuji, you continue.
No, a time okay already, no need to continue. But see, I'm not discouraging anyone. See, kindly understand. See, going back to Godhead means there should be that desire only. I want to go back to Godhead. What I will do afterwards, after going there, I don't know. उधर जो भी होगा वही करेंगे. Whatever I am doing here, I cannot superimpose that I want to do the same thing there only. There also. It is not like that. Whatever is the cultural context of that place, we should be continued there. We cannot impose our current cultural aspects there. So that's what I mean to say. Here we have hundreds of spiritual desires. I want to read Bhagavad Gita every day. I want to read Bhagavatam every day. I want to hear Bhagavad Gita classes, Bhagavatam classes. I want to preach this many. I want to do Gita recitation. I want to do open the temple. I want to preach. I want to preach youth. I want to preach congregation. This, that, so many things. I want to counsel. I want to give seminar. This, that, so many spiritual desires we may have. But if at all one wants to go back home, back to Godhead, forget about all these desires. There should be only one desire. My dear Lord, I want to come to your abode and serve the way you dictate. In Dase Sakya Shanta Vasala, whichever rasa is suitable for me. No prior conditions.
Prabhuji, I'm sorry, but this is not I'm able to digest because if some because generally the current Guru Vrinda also says that our desire to serve the Lord there should depict not just the lip service, it should depict in our actions. So if in our actions one may be reading Bhagavatam, one may be preaching, one may be trying to build a temple or something.
Okay, forget about it. Forget about it. All of us were students.
Yes.
You did MBBS and we did something engineering here and there. While studying in the university, what we were doing, and having gone to after placement, when we go to a company, what we will do? Both will be same or different?
Same only, but earlier maybe.
No, it won't be same. It will be different. We may use the same knowledge, but the actions will be entirely different. It won't be same.
Yeah.
It may be same for a doctor. A doctor thing is entirely different. They keep practicing throughout their study also. But for us engineers now, we study in the colleges, and having gone to office, we start designing and working. It will be there is no more study. Not so much study there.
In college, it was sadhaka life, no? And then in
That's what I'm
afterwards,
saying. That's what I'm saying. Our sadhana here today is like the college study. When Jiva goes back to spiritual world, it is like office work. Our surrender here is to indicate that I am ready to do whatever you say without any obligation, without any objection.
that's why it is said, na Prabhuji, that one should not get attached to any type of particular type of service. Whatever comes, one spirit.
That's what I'm saying. Same thing, na. No desire means no attachment.
No, but means I was very, very much afraid at what you said, that one should not have any spiritual desire of things. So that will again lead us to remain here only, and it will not help us to go back. So I
Hare
was really
Krishna.
taken up.
See, Mataji, no spiritual desire means I also gave the examples also.
Yeah, yeah.
So why are you so much confused and confusing us?
I'm not sorry. I'm not trying to confuse you. I'm sorry to take time.
Simple thing. When a company comes to the university for placement and they recruit, and the student has no idea what he's going to do in the company, having gone there. And for you doctors, it is a different scenario. आप लोग जो कर रहे थे कॉलेज में वही करेंगे बाद में भी. कॉलेज में भी आप कॉलेज मतलब आपका हॉस्पिटल है. But for us, university is different, company is different. We don't have any clue what we are going to do in the company for the first company. For the first time student, they have an induction program. They take students everywhere for 15 days. They train what exactly is happening. They actually give a idea of what is happening here. So it is like that. So I'm sorry, I'm not able to explain you this example properly because you are from a different background.
No,
You
I
are
understood, Prabhuji, what you
Yeah.
said, and you also tried to explain it very nicely. So I will eventually, maybe I will digest it, what you are trying to say. I have understood it, but it is
See,
getting difficult to
see,
digest.
don't worry. See, जो होगा होगा. अभी जो करना है उसके ऊपर ध्यान करने का है. So what happens at the time of death is not in our hand, but currently we have to show our sincerity, our seriousness by our service attitude. So for which we work hard. So though I am speaking so much here, I'm just repeating. I also don't have any understanding. I'm just repeating whatever I read and understood. But that is that is all open idea. We don't have any qualification to discuss all these things. Since it is there in the text, we are discussing. Otherwise, our condition is fighting with anathas itself is a big job throughout the day. So that itself is here. Vinit Prabhu is looking at me. ये क्या बात कर रहे हैं ये लोग? हर दिन 16 माला कंप्लीट करना मुश्किल हो रहा है. ये लोग बहुत बड़े बड़े बात कर रहे हैं करके देख रहे हैं. So we'll take a break for today and we'll continue tomorrow afternoon. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव भक्त की जय.